Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal. As I'm recording this video, the WoW Direct has recently just premiered and it brought with it a ton of new content and features on the horizon, with a lot of new announcements arriving for the future of both Classic WoW, but also of the World Soul Saga and the upcoming major updates for the War Within expansion. Not only are we getting brand new raids, brand new dungeons, brand new content, new ways to experience the game, but also a much requested player feature is finally being added in the future update for WoW, as player housing finally becomes a realized feature. Not just garrisons, but proper player housing has been announced for the Midnight expansion. Honestly, there's way too many exciting things for me to get into, and I kind of just want to dive into them as soon as possible. But as always, if you want to keep up with all the regular updates for the War Within expansion, whether it is the patch 11.07 or 11.1 Season 2 content, or potentially new updates for the Midnight expansion, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. But otherwise, let's dive right in. When talking about all of the different features of this exciting Warcraft Direct, I want to talk about them in a more chronological order as they appeared during the preview, starting with some of the classic experiences coming up to World of Warcraft. First of all, Classic Mists of Pandaria was an expansion that a lot of us knew that would be coming out at some point in the future. Since Classic Cataclysm is in full swing right now, just getting into its Firelands update, and Mists of Pandaria would be the next expansion that follows that experience. And we also saw a few Undermine items like Shah-themed mounts a few weeks ago, so we knew the Mists of Pandaria Classic would only be on the horizon. It is interesting to see how the Classic journey has progressed thus far and where it might go in the future, because Mists of Pandaria might be the final Classic expansion, because where do we go from there? Warlords General? And at that point, the line between Classic and Retail really starts to blur, because WoD is where a lot of the modernizations came to World of Warcraft to begin with. Either way, Mists of Pandaria is an excellent expansion to bring back to Classic, as it was one of the most memorable experiences of the last few expansions, with a unique environment, truly different from everything that we've seen before. Legendary class design. I mean, Druids had the ability of symbiosis, one of the most unique and most powerful abilities when used correctly. But not only Druids, but so many other classes were very well designed, especially when it comes to PvP combat. And Pandaria definitely has had some of the best music in the game, and from what we know so far, it looks like Mists of Pandaria Classic is coming out later this summer. However, Classic experiences are still unfinished, because apparently Classic version of WoW is making a return, with the original vanilla WoW Classic Fresh Realms making a comeback in the near future, which brings back that original vanilla experience that so many players got to relive during the initial launch of Classic WoW. But they'll also have different modes, like a hardcore version of the mode as well, in order to spice up the experience a little bit more. And they'll also have a bunch of quality of life updates that we've seen added throughout our time in Classic WoW, the original launch. All this are going to be available day one for this new Classic experience. It's really there for players that missed out on WoW Classic originally, and this is your moment to go back and relive it again with all of your friends. But these realms will also progress towards TBC over time, so these are progressing realms that eventually will go through all the content cadence of Vanilla Classic into TBC. If you wanted to go back to the original Vanilla WoW, you still could, with the Classic making a return. Then we get some new updates for the patch 11.07, which goes live next month in December, on December 17th specifically, from what I've been able to see. And so far in the channel, we've been able to cover this update pretty extensively, going over the different features that it brings with it, but now we know there's going to be a little bit more. Patch 11.07 will release with a new epilogue questline, which will heavily prominently feature the Haronir, so it means that their story is still left to be told, and Haronir will likely play a big part in updates going forward. We also will get a prologue quest of where we're going, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But majority of this update will feature a brand new zone of Siren Isle, a catch-up island filled with a bunch of treasures and rewards for you to collect, but also a bunch of different mounts to add to your collection. It's an opportunity for players to prepare for the next seasonal update of 11.1, which also got revealed today as well. Siren Isle in 11.07 also features Plunderstrom, which will make a return, Turbulent Timeways catch-up event for leveling characters and gearing them out through a more juiced-up version of Time Walking Weeks that is spammable back-to-back, but also holiday updates such as updates for Winter's Veil as well. And then we got the meat and the bones of this update, patch 11.1, where now we know that this update is called Undermine, and yes, we'll be heading into the Goblin City of Undermine. Undermine is a often talked about goblins underground city that we never really get to experience or see in game, but it's something that's been mentioned through in game a lot, and players have always been excited to potentially one day see the city for themselves. And it looks like they're making that city an entire new zone going forward. We'll be able to explore the goblin society, the goblin humor, but also explosions. A ton of new explosions. The zone of Undermine will be plunged under a conflict between all the different goblin cartels, and as players we'll actually be able to ally ourselves with these cartels. This means we'll be able to get certain perks from these cartels, likely a variety of different customization options, or maybe certain unique items that we'll be able to utilize when it comes to open world progression, or potentially gear in our character. But also we'll get a brand new way to traverse around the Undermine with a new vehicle and some sort of a dynamic ground riding system that's coming with this update. Skyriding on its own has been an incredible feature brought in from Dragonflight that really changed up the way that we traverse the open world. It's a lot more interactive and a lot more engaging, and it looks like they're trying to take that feel into ground mount specifically when it comes to traversing within the Undermine. From what we know so far, the car that you'll be able to get with these goblin cartels will also be very customizable for a variety of different movement abilities, whether you want to have more speed or better control of your vehicle. But as for the details of how you'll be able to fully customize this vehicle, we'll know once 11.1 officially goes live for testing over on the PTR, which will hopefully be sometime soon after the release of 11.07, which is happening very soon. As part of the seasonal update, we know that there's going to be a brand new dungeon called Operation Floodgate, and this dungeon will be instantly available as part of the Season 2 Dungeon Pool for the Mythic Plus. As part of the Season 2 Dungeon Pool, they haven't released a full list of these dungeons just yet, but we do know that the Dungeon of Motherlode will be part of this seasonal update, since it is very thematic to the Goblin Underground City. Delves are continuing to get additional changes, with 2 new delves being added for us to explore, but also more variations and scenarios added to all of the existing delves as well, which I think is going to be a fantastic adjustment when it comes to replayability of seasonal delves. Delve seasonal updates will also feature new changes for Brand Bronzebeard, but apparently there's also going to be a new boss to follow Zekvir encounter for delves, which means there's plenty more challenges as well as rewards ahead for us when it comes to taking on the delves in Season 2 of The War Within. Since this is a major seasonal update, this means we also are getting a brand new raid, Liberation of Undermine, an 8-boss raid encounter where the final boss of this instance will be none other than Galawix himself, a character that's popped up prominently when it comes to goblins, especially during the expansion of Battle for Azeroth, with his story left unfinished for the most part, but it looks like that storyline might be getting wrapped up in the patch 11.1. For PvPers, there's also going to be a new goblin-themed arena, which is always nice to see. And even though this patch does seem to be a very goblin-themed update, Xal'atath will apparently still play a major part of the storyline as it continues through the World Soul Saga. We also got a brand new roadmap that's been revealed, which gives us a bit more information regarding as to what may come next in future updates for WoW, especially for the patch 11.1, but also in updates following. And those of you with a keen eye may notice that there's a few new icons that you've never seen before on this map that could potentially mean that some kind of a secretive new update is arriving in the near future. And yes, I want to save literally the best for last, as player housing is finally coming to World of Warcraft. This has been a feature that many have talked about for ages now, with many players wondering if Garrisons was the closest thing we'll ever come to World of Warcraft player housing. It feels like every other MMO in the game out there has had player housing forever now. It's almost like a core feature to most of the newer launched MMOs, but World of Warcraft was the only one that didn't have it, and it looks like it's coming, but as part of the Midnight expansion update. Very excited to see exactly what that'll look like, and there's a lot of expectations from a player housing system. So hopefully they'll be able to match as many of those expectations from the player community, but I think giving them at least time until midnight might just allow a player housing system to fully shine and even thrive, given enough time and enough effort and enough support. So I'm very excited to see exactly what that will look like, and hopefully we'll be able to show it off on this channel whenever the previews for the Midnight expansions are finally upon us. And as always though, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching this major update, and I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did enjoy it or found it informative, go ahead and give this video a like. I would very much appreciate it. Join our Discord community if you want to keep up with all the newer updates arriving in the future for the War Within expansion. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.